They thought she would stay quiet, that she'd play it safe, smile for the cameras, and let the chaos unfold in silence. But today, all of that changes. After weeks of swirling rumors, viral court clips, and explosive locker room whispers, Sue Bird, yes, the Sue Bird has finally stepped out of the shadows to say what nobody else in the WNBA has dared to admit. In a stunning twist that has fans across the nation gasping in disbelief, Sue is breaking her silence, and what she's revealing about the WNBA's secret motives against rookie sensation Caitlin Clark will leave you shaken. It all started with what seemed like harmless rough play on the court, hard fouls, side-eyes from veteran players, and oddly muted reactions from league officials. But as the tension escalated and the attacks got nastier, fans began asking, why is Caitlin Clark, the biggest draw in women's basketball, being targeted? And now, Sue Bird is pulling the curtain back. In a late-night tell-all, the retired icon revealed jaw-dropping details about private conversations with league executives, jealous rivalries behind the scenes, and a quiet campaign to humble the rising star before she could truly shine. You won't believe who's involved. You won't believe why. And you definitely won't believe how close this all came to exploding into full-blown scandal. The truth, it's messier than anyone imagined. Sue didn't just speak, she exposed. She lit the match, and now the WNBA's secrets are going up in flames. Stay right there, because what you're about to hear will change how you see the WNBA forever. It started quietly to quietly. Caitlin Clark had just stepped into the WNBA with a tidal wave of hype behind her. Her college performances were nothing short of legendary, and the entire country watched as she broke records, filled arenas, and lit up social media like a wildfire. But once she was drafted, something changed. It wasn't immediate, and it wasn't obvious, but it was there: whispers, sidelong glances, and the kind of subtle exclusion you only notice when it's repeated. At first, fans brushed it off. Just rookie hazing, they said. She has to earn her stripes. But then came the hard fouls. Then came the post-game interviews that sounded more like veiled attacks than professional sportsmanship. And then came Sue Bird, legend, icon, Hall of Famer who had been watching the whole time, silent, observing, and now she had something to say. The tension had already reached a boiling point when Sue appeared on an unannounced podcast appearance late one night. The host, clearly not expecting what was about to unfold, tried to ease into the conversation with typical pleasantries. But Sue wasn't in the mood. She didn't come to talk about her career or her new ventures. She came to clear the air. "Listen," she said, her voice sharper than anyone had ever heard. "I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I've been watching what's happening to Caitlin Clark, and I'm done pretending this is normal. It's not, and people need to understand it's not about the game anymore. It's personal, it's political, and it's been building behind closed doors long before she ever stepped onto a WNBA court." The host sat back, stunned. Sue didn't flinch. Backstage, before the episode even aired, word started to spread. Other players caught wind of Sue's statement before the podcast dropped, and within hours, the league group chats were on fire. Some were furious, some were nervous, but most were silent because they knew Sue's claims weren't coming from nowhere. She wasn't grasping at conspiracy theories. She was recounting conversations. She was exposing the passive-aggressive plotting of executives, the resentment of certain veterans, and the unspoken initiation Caitlin was expected to endure. "There's this idea," Sue said in the podcast, "that new stars, especially young white ones, have to be humbled, that they need to learn their place. But let's be honest, that's not basketball. That's bullying disguised as culture. And I've seen it happen before, just never this loud." What no one expected was that Sue would name names. "There were meetings," she said, "where coaches and league officials discussed how to manage the narrative around Caitlin, how to make sure she didn't overshadow other players. I was in one of those rooms. I couldn't believe what I was hearing." The host's eyes widened. Are you saying there was an active effort to sabotage her? Sue leaned forward. I'm saying the WNBA didn't want another Diana Taurasi. They didn't want another individual star outshining the collective, but more than that. They didn't want a white girl becoming the face of the league in a matter of months. That's the truth. The podcast was barely live for 10 minutes before it exploded across Twitter, Instagram, and every sports forum imaginable. Fans were shocked. Critics called it a betrayal, and Caitlyn. She hadn't even heard it yet. Meanwhile, in Caitlyn's camp, the mood shifted from confusion to concern. Her team had been trying to stay quiet amid the rising tension. Let your game speak, her agent had said. Don't get pulled into the drama, but that was before Sue Bird lit the fuse. The calls started pouring in. Have you heard what Sue said? Did you know she was going to say that? Are you okay? Caitlyn was blindsided. Why now? She whispered to a teammate, why is this happening now? Her voice cracked not with fear, but with a sense of betrayal. She had looked up to Sue Bird, idolized her. And now even her defender had exposed just how deep the league's resistance really went. Behind the scenes, the WNBA offices were in full crisis mode. PR teams scrambled to prepare statements, and executives tried to decide whether to issue a denial or stay silent. But the damage was already done. Sue Bird's words had validated everything fans had been suspecting for weeks and worse. They had confirmed that Caitlyn wasn't just dealing with tough opponents, she was up against the system itself. This isn't about basketball, one insider told a local reporter. It's about control. Caitlyn is the biggest thing to happen to the WNBA in a decade. And instead of embracing that, some people are trying to contain it. Back in her apartment, Caitlyn scrolled through her phone. Clip after clip of Sue's interview filled her timeline. Tweets both supporting and slamming her. One read, Caitlin Clark didn't deserve this. The league should be ashamed. Another said, this is just white privilege crying foul. The division was clear. The silence from some of her peers even louder. But what hurt Caitlyn the most wasn't the online hate, it was realizing how many people in the league she admired might have been rooting against her all along. Then came the phone call, Sue Bird personally reaching out. Caitlyn hesitated before answering. Hello, she said softly. There was a pause, and then Sue spoke. I didn't do it for you, she said, blunt as ever. I did it because I've seen this game eat people alive. And I wasn't going to watch it happen to you without saying something. But now that it's out there, you need to know it's going to get worse before it gets better. Caitlyn was silent. Then she whispered, thank you. Sue's voice softened. They're going to come for me next. They already are. But you just focus on playing your game. Let the rest burn outside. The media frenzy was only growing. Cameras waited outside practice facilities. Reporters dug into old interviews, trying to find any hint of prior tension between Caitlyn and veteran players. Clips from games were reanalyzed frame by frame, every elbow, every stare down, every moment of physicality. Fans began compiling receipts, creating timelines of events that now felt sinister in hindsight. But amid all the noise, one thing was becoming clear. This wasn't just about Caitlyn anymore. It was about power, legacy, identity, and the future of the league. But just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, another twist dropped. One of Caitlyn's teammates, who had remained silent through it all, was caught on a hot mic during practice saying she needs to stop playing the victim. Nobody's out to get her. The clip leaked within hours, sparking even more chaos. Caitlyn was devastated. She had trusted her, confided in her. And now she was part of the same narrative trying to paint her as delusional. And that's where the real war began. Because Sue Bird wasn't done talking, and the WNBA had just lost control of the story. The moment that hot mic clip hit social media, Everything escalated tenfold. Sue Bird's interview had already set the league on fire. But now with Caitlin Clark's own teammates subtly calling her a victim, the media frenzy exploded into pure chaos. Fans were split down the middle, some defending Caitlin, others accusing her of entitlement. But inside Caitlin's locker room, the vibe shifted from tension to full-blown fracture. The air was thick with distrust. Players whispered in corners, avoided eye contact, and worst of all, the coaching staff pretended like nothing was happening. Caitlin felt isolated, abandoned in the very team she was supposed to call her family. That night, Caitlin didn't go home. She drove for hours, phone blowing up with messages from reporters, friends, and even her college coach trying to check in. Finally, she stopped at a quiet diner 2 towns over. Hoodie up, eyes tired, she ordered coffee and sat in a booth scrolling through hundreds of comments under Sue Bird's interview. One read, "She's just a pawn in a bigger war." Another, "Funny how fast they turn on you when you threaten the status quo." And one that hit her like a punch to the gut. They loved her when she was breaking records, but now she's just another rookie who flew too close to the sun. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A FaceTime from someone she hadn't heard from in months, Diana Taurasi. Caitlin hesitated. The GOAT, the very player who, weeks earlier, had publicly said Caitlin needed to pay her dues. The same player many believed was fueling the anti-Caitlin energy in the league. With her heart pounding, she answered. Diana appeared on screen, and smiling. "Look," she said without greeting, "I'm not here to coddle you. You want the truth." Caitlin didn't speak. Diana continued. "This league eats the weak. That's not new. What's new is how fast you became the face of it. That's what pissed people off, not you, the machine behind you. The coverage, the attention, the endorsements. They think you didn't earn it." Caitlin finally spoke, quietly. "But I did. I worked for this." Diana nodded. "I know. I've watched your games. You're legit. But this isn't about talent. It's about hierarchy, and you skipped the line." The call lasted just 6 minutes. But when it ended, Caitlin sat frozen. There it was. The brutal honesty nobody had dared say to her face. It wasn't personal. It was structural. She hadn't just been dropped into a league, she had disrupted a system built on slow burn loyalty, where climbing the ranks was a years-long grind. She was the spark that exposed everyone's unspoken frustrations, and now the pushback was her price to pay. Meanwhile, Sue Bird's words had inspired more than just outrage. In secret, other former players started reaching out to her. Anonymous messages, some supportive, others warning her to let it go. One former All-Star even emailed her saying, "You're not helping. You're making it worse for her." But Sue refused to back down. In a surprise appearance on The View, she doubled down. "Let me be clear," she said on national television. "I'm not blaming players. I'm blaming the silence. The people who see what's happening and pretend it's just basketball. It's not. This is about identity, power, and fear." And that's when the biggest twist of all hit the headlines. An internal WNBA memo was leaked, and actual documents circulated among league marketing execs that included a bullet point which read, "Manage Caitlin Clark narrative to avoid overexposure backlash." The document was dated months before the draft. Sue had been telling the truth all along. Now it was undeniable. Sports networks picked up the story like wildfire. ESPN hosted emergency panels. Former players came out of retirement to comment. Social media became a battleground. Why would the league sabotage its most marketable player? One anchor asked. Another replied, "Because this league has always struggled with balancing team loyalty and star power." Caitlin's rise was too fast, too bright, and they weren't ready. Caitlin, meanwhile, returned to practice the next day. She walked in silently, headphones on, eyes down. Her teammates glanced at her, unsure of what to say. She said nothing, just laced up and hooked to the court. But her energy was different now. Every shot she made echoed. Every sprint felt like defiance. She wasn't just playing anymore, she was proving something. The press was banned from practice that week, but that didn't stop leaks from spreading. "She's on fire," one assistant coach texted a journalist, like she's got something to prove to the whole damn world. And the world was watching. Later that evening, another clip dropped, this time from a heated team meeting that was secretly recorded. In the audio, a veteran teammate was heard saying, "We all paid our dues." "Why should she be different?" Another voice responded, "Because she's filling every arena. She's putting us on the map." A pause. Then, "So we're just supposed to kiss her ass?" The room went silent. That clip blew up faster than anything before it. It was raw, real, and revealed the true fracture at the heart of the team: jealousy versus growth. That same night, Caitlyn's agent made a bold move. In a leaked email to the league commissioner, he wrote, "If your executives don't publicly address this growing narrative and protect Caitlyn from internal sabotage, we will consider alternative paths for her professional career." Overseas markets have already shown interest. The threat was subtle, but powerful. The idea of Caitlyn Clark leaving the WNBA before her rookie contract even finished sent fans into a frenzy. Sue Bird, catching wind of the memo leak and the agent's email, took to Instagram Live Raw Unfiltered. "This is bigger than Caitlyn now," she said, voice cracking with passion. "This is about how women's sports treats its stars, how it handles success, and how it fails when we let resentment dictate the culture." She paused, eyes fierce. "I'm not sorry for speaking up. I'm sorry it took this long." But just when the league thought things might cool down, bam, another twist. A major sponsor, one of the WNBA's biggest partners, announced it was reconsidering its partnership, citing internal culture concerns and mishandled media narratives. Though they didn't name names, the timing was no coincidence. Suddenly, the league wasn't just facing fan backlash, it was facing financial consequences. And with money on the line, the commissioner finally broke her silence. In a highly orchestrated press conference, she said, "We are aware of recent conversations surrounding Caitlyn Clark and are investigating any claims of bias or unfair treatment. The WNBA remains committed to equality, fairness, and player safety." But fans weren't buying it. One tweeted, "Too little, too late. We saw the memo." Another, "The silence was loud until the sponsors started backing out." Inside the league offices, Sue Bird's words echoed in every hallway. Caitlyn Clark's talent had become a powder keg. And the WNBA was learning, the hard way, that suppressing a star only makes their light shine brighter. And Caitlyn, she didn't say a word, she just kept playing. But you better believe this isn't over. Caitlyn Clark kept playing, but something inside her had changed. Her game was more focused, her shots more precise, but her smile gone. The joy she once carried onto the court now wore the mask of discipline. Sue Bird's explosive revelations, the hot mic betrayal, and that leaked WNBA memo had shaken her belief not in her talent, but in the system she had just entered. Still, she showed up every night, putting on a performance that couldn't be ignored. But as the lights grew brighter on her, the shadows behind the league's image grew darker. Backstage, the drama had taken a new turn. Former legends started choosing sides. Some, like Tamika Catchings and Cheryl Swoops, publicly backed Sue Bird's decision to speak out. "It takes guts to say what others are too afraid to admit," Tamika said during a CNN interview. "We've seen this before, but never this openly." But others weren't so supportive. Lisa Leslie took to social media with a cryptic tweet, "Not everything needs to be aired out like dirty laundry. We've got bigger battles." Fans were divided. Was Sue a whistleblower, or had she broken a sacred code? Meanwhile, inside Caitlyn's locker room, the cracks deepened. Practices were tense. Film reviews turned into silent standoffs. One day after a brutal scrimmage where Caitlyn took another hard foul from a teammate and got no call, she stood up and, for the first time, broke her silence. "Are we playing the game or playing politics?" she snapped, her voice-sharp eyes locked on the coaching staff. The room froze. No one responded. Her teammate, the same one caught on that hot mic, glanced away. The coach mumbled something about team dynamics, but Caitlin wasn't buying it. "Got it," she said, grabbing her towel. "Just wanted to know which league I signed up for." But the most unexpected moment came days later when a veteran from another team, a player who had never spoken on drama before, pulled Caitlin aside after a game. "You're not imagining this," she said, voice low and eyes full of empathy. "I've seen them do this to others before. Just not on this scale. You scare them. Not because you're white, not because you're new, but because they can't control you." Caitlin's eyes welled up. She wasn't used to kindness lately. Across the country, sports bars and living rooms echoed with debates. Sports radio exploded with callers arguing both sides. "She's gotta toughen up, it's pro ball," shouted one. "This is bullying, and they know it," argued another. Commentators replayed Sue's podcast clip alongside game footage, dissecting every elbow thrown Caitlin's way. "If this happened in the NBA," one anchor said on First Take, "heads would roll. But here, everyone's scared to call it what it is." In a bold move, Caitlin's alma mater hosted a tribute night in her honor. Thousands of fans packed the arena wearing "Let Her Play" shirts. Videos of Caitlin's college highlights played on jumbo screens. The crowd erupted as Caitlin's parents took the mic. Her mother choked back tears. "All we ever wanted was for our daughter to play the game she loves," she said. "But what's happening now? It's breaking her spirit." That moment went viral. The internet lit up with hashtags like #ProtectCaitlin and #WNBA Reckoning. Behind closed doors, league execs were panicking. Their worst fear had come true. The drama wasn't just a Twitter feud anymore. It was threatening the league's brand, its integrity, and now its future. An emergency summit was called. High-ranking officials, team owners, even past commissioners were invited. The topic, crisis control. Inside that room, ideas flew wildly. "Should we suspend players for unsportsmanlike conduct?" one asked. "Do we force a unity campaign?" another offered. But one executive stood up and said what everyone was thinking. "We didn't just mishandle this, we created this." But the story didn't end there, because the biggest betrayal was still to come. That week, an anonymous player gave an exclusive to a major sports magazine the insider's truth about the Caitlin Clark divide. The article sent shockwaves through the league. The unnamed player, heavily suspected to be from Caitlin's own team, claimed that half the locker room agreed with Sue Bird's allegations but were too scared to say it. The player also revealed that certain veterans had been encouraged to test Caitlin early in the season to see how she handled pressure, a move that bordered on sanctioned hazing. The line that broke the internet: "She wasn't welcomed. She was warned." Now even the casual fan couldn't look away. Every WNBA game was under a microscope. Every Caitlin foul, every post-game comment, every icy handshake became national news. The drama had become the league's defining storyline, and there was no turning back. That's when Sue Bird made her final move. Appearing at a live women's sports summit, Sue took the stage and delivered a thunderous speech. "I didn't expose the WNBA because I hate it. I exposed it because I love it," she said. "And I refuse to watch this league repeat the mistakes. We've already made tearing each other down, sabotaging stars, and silencing truth tellers. We can't grow if we keep punishing greatness." The crowd gave her a standing ovation. And in that moment, it was clear Sue Bird wasn't alone anymore. The ripple effect of Sue Bird's speech could be felt within hours. Social media was electric. Former players began coming out of the woodwork, some publicly, others anonymously, to share similar stories of being managed, muted, or molded to fit an image the league approved of. One tweet from a 2000 WNBA All-Star read, When I spoke out about internal favoritism in 2008, they benched me, then traded me. So just put decades of silence on blast. That post alone racked up 1 million likes in 24 hours. Caitlin Clark's next game was sold out. Not just sold out, but oversold. Fans lined up 6 hours before tip-off, wearing shirts with her face and the phrase "unmuzzled." When she entered the court, the arena erupted not with the usual applause of a popular rookie, but with the full-force energy of a woman who'd become a symbol. She wasn't just playing basketball anymore. She was playing for every athlete who'd been told to know her place. But not everyone was celebrating. Inside the league, chaos ruled. Emails were being leaked daily, player group chats were being exposed in tabloid blogs. An internal message board from a team's front office surfaced online, where execs casually discussed controlling Clark's narrative before it turns her into the league's monster. That word "monster" trended on Twitter for days. The WNBA tried to issue a formal apology, but no one believed it. Too corporate, too rehearsed, too late. And then came the benching during a high-stakes game, with the crowd on fire and Caitlin playing her best ball yet. The coach suddenly pulled her out mid-quarter. No explanation, no injury, no strategy, just benched. Cameras caught Caitlin sitting on the bench, jaw tight, eyes on the court, fists clenched. The crowd began booing not at the opposing team, but at her own coach. Sports analysts were stunned. One ESPN panelist shouted on live TV, "You're gonna bench your biggest star during a career night, after weeks of scandal. This is either sabotage or stupidity, take your pick." Caitlin's agent didn't stay quiet. Within 24 hours, he gave an exclusive interview to a major sports outlet. What happened last night was intentional. And unless the WNBA takes accountability immediately, we're exploring overseas opportunities, period. That was the shot heard around the league. The threat of losing Caitlin Clark not to injury, not to burnout, but to Europe shook every front office to its core. Sue Bird followed it up with a blistering post on Instagram. They don't want to play fair. They want to control the narrative. But the narrative belongs to the people now. That post alone had celebrities chiming in: Billie Jean King, Serena Williams. Even Taylor Swift reposted it with a caption that said, "Every woman knows what it's like to be punished for shining too bright." That broke the internet. But perhaps the most unexpected moment came from within Caitlin's own team. The same teammate who had once been caught on the hot mic, who had subtly undermined her for weeks, approached Caitlin after practice. It wasn't filmed. There were no reporters. Just two players in a quiet hallway. "I was wrong," she sighed. "I let jealousy speak louder than respect. I didn't understand what you were carrying until I saw how they treated you. And how you kept showing up anyway." Caitlin didn't speak. She just nodded. There was no grand reunion, no hug, no forgiveness montage. But it was something, a crack in the wall that had kept them divided. Meanwhile, fans started organizing online. They launched a movement, #LetHerLead, a petition calling for a formal investigation into the league's treatment of Caitlin, and the memo scandal reached 2 million signatures in 2 days. Sponsors who once quietly backed away were now issuing statements in support of her. And the WNBA, they were cornered. Finally, the commissioner scheduled an emergency press conference. This time, there was no dodging. She stood at the podium, visibly shaken, and announced a third-party investigation into the internal conduct of several front offices. "We failed to protect one of our rising stars," she said. "We acknowledge that failure, and we are committed to changing the culture that allowed it to happen." The room was silent. A few reporters nodded. But nobody applauded. Trust would take time to rebuild. And Caitlin, she said nothing. No tweet, no comment. No dramatic sit-down interview. She just played. She showed up the next night and dropped 38 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds, her career best. As the buzzer sounded, the crowd chanted, "MVP, MVP, her teammates ran to her. Even the coach, who had benched her before, gave a hesitant but genuine fist bump. Cameras zoomed in as Caitlin walked to center court and raised her hand not in celebration, but in defiance. Sue Bird watched from the stand. She wasn't smiling, but her eyes glistened. She turned to a reporter next to her and whispered, "This isn't the end, it's the beginning." And she was right, because Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie anymore. She was a revolution. So what happens next? Will the WNBA follow through on its promises? Or will this all fade into the background once the season ends? Will Caitlin stay, continue to light up the league with her unstoppable game? Or will she pack her bags and take her talents overseas where she's truly appreciated? And what about Sue Bird? Will the league retaliate against her for speaking out? Or will more legends finally join her in saying enough is enough? One thing's for sure, the game will never be the same. This isn't just about basketball. It's about power, legacy, and the cost of truth in a system built to silence dissent. Caitlin Clark came to the league to play, but she became the center of a firestorm she never asked for, and she never backed down. And Sue Bird, she proved that once a leader, always a leader. When history looks back, they won't remember this moment for the controversy. They'll remember it as the turning point. But now we want to hear from you. Do you think the WNBA was targeting Caitlin Clark? Was Sue Bird right to blow the whistle? Or did she cross a line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't hold back. And if you want more jaw-dropping drama, shocking twists, and insider revelations like this one, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss an update. Because in the world of sports drama, the real story is always behind the scoreboard. Stay tuned, stay bold, and remember, this is just the beginning.